Hi guys, welcome to this video. I'm Prashant, I'm the founder of Word Pandit, and I'm bringing a series of videos to you wherein I explain previous year CAT questions. Today we've got a CAT 2018 paragraph summary question. So let's get started with this video and try to understand this question. In case you've not solved this question, please pause this video and solve this question before you go through this video solution. Now, what does this question talk about? What does this question state? It talks about the Japanese government's actions in the field of biology and genome editing. Uh, Before you understand and before you explore the answer options, it always makes sense to understand the paragraph and identify a summary of your own or the key idea in the passage. Then you can use that to eliminate the answer options. What does this paragraph specifically talk about? A Japanese government panel announced that it recommends regulating only genetically modified organisms that have had foreign genes permanently introduced into their genomes and not those whose endogenous genes have been edited, right? So now there are two types of genetic modifications which are being talked about. One of those is foreign genes being permanently introduced into genes, right? Into genomes. So you've had for foreign genes introduced into gene sequences, in other simple words, genomes, which have been introduced here. So this is type 1. And the second type of modification is endogenous genes. Endogenous genes are ones which are created within the organism itself, right? So genes, modified genes that have been created within the organism itself. Endogenous would refer to genes of the organism itself, right? These are genes which have originated within the organism and these have been edited, right? So these are the two types of genetic editing which is being talked about in the given case. The only stipulation is that researchers and businesses will have to register their modifications to plants and animals with the government. So the only stipulation is that you have to register what you are doing with the government, with the exception of microbes cultured in contained environments. Now this is something which is very important and you have to note it down here, is the fact that this is just an extra fact that does not really impact the overall paragraph, with the exception of microbes cultured in contained environments, right? So this is talking about an exception of microbes, right? So we've moved slightly away from genes and genomes and foreign genes and endogenous genes. Reactions to the decision were mixed. While lauding the potential benefits of genome editing, an editorial opposes across the board permission. So an editorial is opposing across the board permission, right? The editorial is opposing the fact that endogenous genes have been given the green flag. They've been told you can do whatever you want. It says unforeseen risks in gene editing cannot be ruled out. So basically it's targeting endogenous genes. Remember, the foreign gene ones, they have to be reported. It's the endogenous gene editing that does not need to be reported anymore. All genetically modified products, so which means both foreign genes edited as well as endogenous genes edited, must go through the same safety and labeling process regardless of method. So basically this paragraph is saying foreign genes or endogenous genes does not matter. An editorial is pointing out the fact that genome editing can have its risks and hence both these should have the same protocols. Option number A, a government panel in Japan says transgenic modification and genome editing are not the same. Now the first thing is, what is transgenic modification? This is something that should baffle you a little because this has not been mentioned in the passage. Transgenic refers to something which contains artificial genetic material from another species. So this would be close to foreign genes being introduced into their genomes. So we can call that transgenic modification. Now the thing is, transgenic modification and endogenous gene modification, they're not the same, right? So genome editing is just the process, right, which you can have transgenic modification or endogenous gene modification. So these two cannot be compared as such. Genome editing is a process, right? So transgenic modification would actually be using genome editing. Hence, this option actually logically does not make sense. Now, option number B, accepting microbes cultured in contained environments from the regulations of gene editing is premature. The problem is this passage is about foreign genes and endogenous genes and their editing, not about microbes cultured in contained environments. This is just an extra fact given to confuse you. Leaves us with two options. Option number D, creating categories within genetically modified products in terms of transgenic modification and genome editing advances science but defies laws. The problem is there is no mention of the legal aspects. There is no mention of laws. It's about safety. So the legal aspect has not been mentioned, hence ruled out. Option number C, exempting from regulations the editing of endogenous genes is not desirable as this procedure might be risk prone, which is exactly what is stated in the second half of the paragraph. The first half of the paragraph tells us what the action is, and the second half of the paragraph tells us that this action might be risky, it might have some risks. Also look at how this option has been phrased. It says might be risk prone. So the option itself uses a very diplomatic and it uses a method of communicating which is not too extreme in nature and perfectly fits the content of the paragraph. Hence, option number C is the correct answer here. Hopefully, so you've understood the reasoning for this question. Thank you very much for watching this video, and as always, happy learning.